Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. On this episode, sticking with my 18th, 19th century warfare themes here, not so much the 17th, although I am looking over, refreshing myself on the rules of No Peace Without Spain. But this episode, we're going to be doing Catherine the Great, from Strategy and Tactics number 232. Yeah, I know. There's a picture of a German tank wading through the steppe grasslands. But if you look up here at the yellow, you can see Catherine the Great. And see, and it's on the inside too. Now, why is there a German tank on the front of this? That's because, according to, I can't remember if it was Ty Bomber or Joe Miranda that mentioned it on Calm Sim World, they already had a era appropriate painting and picture on the previous cover, so they went with this one. But the game is Catherine the Great. Now, Catherine the Great is a solitaire game. Basically, you're playing the Russians, and you're trying to maximize your victory points by acquiring territory, keeping your country stable, and keeping it producing money and stuff, etc., etc., while, of course, trying to deal with the vicissitudes of the balance of power situation. Okay? So, the game lasts 7 turns, and each turn is roughly about 4 years of time. So we will jump into this as we always do. So let's get rolling. So, you have 2 sections to the turns. There's the coalition turn, which is the game system, and then there is, of course, your turn where you play the Russian Empire. So, first things first, you're going to be drawing some markers. This is a chit pool game, and the markers drawn are determined by, way up here at the top, there we go, the balance of power scale. As you can see, it goes all the way from -10 to +10. Now, if it ever reaches either one of those numbers, you automatically lose. Basically, the European balance of power gets so out of whack that there's a general war, which of course engulfs Russia, and that's that. You're in big trouble, so you don't want that to happen. As you can see right now, I'm all the way up to +6, which is starting to drift into some dangerous territory there. Okay, but that will tell you where the balance of power is. Will tell you there's another chart over here to the right of it that will tell you how many markers you need to pull to start. Whoops, wrong direction. At the start of each turn for the coalition. Okay, and of course the coalition is governed by, on the sides of the map here, and I'll zoom in here for you to show you, there is quote-unquote cards. Now, of course, if this had been a box game, they would have literally been cards, but as you can see here, there are cards for the different powers, like here's Caucasia, and the Khanate, which I'm currently dealing with because they're active, more about that in a minute, Persia, and we got one for the Ottomans, of course, and the German states, Poland, everybody there. So basically, it gives you information about each one of those countries, what they do, what their goals are, etc., etc., if they get into the fray, as it were. Okay? So, let's start then by drawing our chits. Now, the chits all go into one cup, and the chits can be a couple of different things. They can be potentially activation of countries, bringing them into the conflict, which currently, right now, Russia, is at war with Sweden and the Khanate. Okay, and they can also be leader counters, which are helpful in combat. More about that in a little bit. They also can be random events, and they also can be combat markers as well too. So we're going to shake this up, and we're going to draw 4 markers on the top, and then I'll show you the 4 that we pull. So 1, 2, 3, and last but not least, 4. Okay. We got an interesting little variety here. So let's zoom in. We'll see the 4 that I pulled from the cup. Alright, now the 4 I pulled from the cup here, let's start at the top. The first one here is a leader marker. Now, if a leader marker is ever pulled, this one is in Denmark, then you just place it with that country, with any unit that you want That's a non-garrison unit. Well, it doesn't have to be a non-garrison unit, but typically you're going to place it with a non-garrison unit. And that will help you in combat. Basically, it doubles the combat factor of your units. Okay. The second marker I pulled is a random event one, off-map war number 1. Okay, so we're going to roll and see what are we looking at here for this off-map war. I rolled a 4. So according to the chart over here, and again, like typical magazines, you have basically your map, okay? And then of course all along the edges, you have all your charts. So off-map war number 1, here it is, I rolled a 4. So this is the Brabant Revolt in Austria, okay? Special roll a die if it's active on either side, okay? Well, it's not active. So if a power is not active, it can't be affected. Austria is not active in the game right now. Only myself, the Khanate, and the Swedes are. So that basically ends up being no effect. And that will go back into the cup. Now, I did draw one of the powers. I did draw Turkestan. So let's take a look at that and see how that's going to work whenever you draw a power. So first of all, we're talking about Turkestan, which is over here by the Aral Sea, if my geography serves me right. Yes. So we're going to be focusing over here, and now I'm going to have to deal with a threat to my borders in this region here. Okay, and of course, here's the Turkestan Empire. So now I'm going to be dealing with 3 opponents, basically getting on my case, so to speak. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take a marker over here. There are markers to mark when people are active or where they fulfill their policies. And then we're going to find over here on the quote-unquote cards, we're going to find Turkestan. Okay? And Turkestan is right here. Okay? So let's take a closer look now that we're activating this power and see how these activations work. Okay, and I apologize for the edge of the plexiglass there when I set this up. I didn't do such a good job of taking a look at that. Whoops. Sorry about that. Here we go. So first of all, precedence basically tells you what order the coalition forces move in. When you move the coalition forces as the player, you move them in order of precedence. So obviously, Turkestan gets to move very late in the game. Okay, if it is coalition controlled, it has objectives. It has objectives of Ufa and Astrakhan, which both border their regions. Okay, so I could go after either one, and of course, if you don't want to choose, you can roll a die. You know, if you want to split forces or what have you. Okay, now sometimes if you look at 2B here, sometimes whenever a power is activated, it will turn around and cause a chain reaction. Okay, because of course, you know, sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But in this particular case, you can see there it says none. So Russia doesn't get any geopolitical benefit out of this. Nobody's going to enter the fray on Russia's side because Turkestan has decided that they're going to attack there. Okay, and underneath it there, you can see if it's Russian controlled. Okay, which can happen in the Russian turn. You can play diplomacy. You can or activate diplomacy as an option and pull markers out of the cup. Then, of course, again, the same kind of thing, what their objectives are. And, of course, in this case, if it was Russian-controlled, Persia would be activated on the coalition side. Okay? So, Turkestan is now in the war. So now, basically, there are 3 countries at my doorstep trying to cause me trouble. I feel like the Eagles and Take It Easy. You know, 7 women on my mind. 2 that want to owe me, 3 that want to stow me, and 1 says she's a friend of mine. Wait, is it 4? 4 that want to owe me, 2 that want to stow me, and 1 says she's a friend of mine. There we go. My math was bad. Alright, math was never my strong point. So, that is the activation marker, and that will go back into the cup too. And if it's pulled again, then it depends on what's going on with that country, whether it may become neutral again or not. Now we have another special event here. We have the Pugachev one that I have pulled. So the Pugachev Rebellion is going to be the last event here. Okay? Let's see. Oh no, the coalition gains control of all Cossack units. Yike. Alright. Oh man, all eliminated Cossack units are immediately recruited and placed 1 per Cossack region. Oh. Okay, so that is going to be an issue. Because now, over here, I'm going to have a big problem. Because all my Cossack units are turning against me. Whew, this is not good. I'm going to spend time trying to crush all these guys. Alright. And then, of course, if you see here, I'm going to zoom in on Voronezh. Here, if you look here at Voronezh, you can see where Voronezh says, see where it says Cossack there? Okay, it is, that's a little too close, let's come back, there we go. See, it says Cossack, so that is a Cossack region. So all the eliminated Cossack units, I have to put one, all the units that are recruited and place one per Cossack region. Oh, man. Alright, and then 3 rebel units in any Russian region. Yikes. Okay, I've got a big problem here. Alright. So, well, the good news is there's only one Cossack that I have to deal with, and the Cossacks exist, it looks like, in 2 regions here. Nope, 3. Okay, so there's 3, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll a die to randomly determine where they're going to go. Because again, you know, I mean, I could choose, but for me, I always like to do randomly because you just never know. You know, and I think it makes the game better if you don't know what's going on. So they are against me. And then I've got these rebel issues here. Let's see. Any Russian regions. Events active until the end of any turn. Russian forces control all Cossack regions, or all Cossack units are in the dead pile at the same time. Okay, then we permanently remove it from play. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this front and center down here so I don't forget about it. And let's see, there are a number of different rebel counters that are here. So, what I'm going to do is put them into a cup and draw them. So you guys are in luck because this is probably the most exciting turn I've had here so far. So, yeah. Woo! Alright. Let's see. Here we go. And then we have a random placement table for the units too to determine where they're going to go in Russia. So let's find out here. So the first unit, 43. So 43 is great. Ostrakhan, which is going to be under attack from the Turks. This is going to be a busy turn for me. Whew. Alright, second rebel unit, 63. Going in Ufa. Great. Also, a target of the Khanates. Terrific. Which means, of course, these Cossack folks could wear me down, potentially. And then last but not least, 21. Wait, actually it's 22 in Casablanca. But 21, Blackjack, Muscovy. Great. Oh, yes, Muscovy. So I'm going to have to crush those guys there, too. Whew. Oh, this is going to be a rough turn. Alright. So, as you can see, the game can be very sporty with the markers that are pulled. Sometimes it can be very bland turns, too. Last turn I didn't have much going on. There was a couple of random events pulled that really didn't apply, and there were some combat markers, so, you know, that was a pretty calm turn. Alright? So the next thing we do now is the coalition reinforcement phase. So coalition forces now will come into the game in any spaces where their units are designated. And the units on the back of them have, well, actually this is a bad one. Let me get one of the Swedish ones. That's showing up better. As you can see, there's a little abbreviation of what space it goes in. So this one is going into Gothland because, of course, Sweden has its eyes on, not surprisingly, the Baltic and St. Petersburg. But, of course, first they got to be looking at Finland because I took Finland from them and they'd love to get that back. So they're going to get that. They're going to get their fleet in the central Baltic. Okay, the Khanate will get their column here, and that's all they have. Now, they do have other forces, but they haven't conquered any of those spaces, so they don't get them. Okay, and then, of course, the Turkestan Forces, we'll see what they have here. Okay, and they don't really have a whole lot of troops, so that's kind of on the plus side there. But they do have, over here, Let's see, Kia, Kazakhs. Okay, so actually they don't get anything placed because theirs is Ufa, Astrakhan, and Khorasan, and none of those are controlled by them currently right now. So they won't get any forces placed for their reinforcements. Okay. Now movement. Basically what the coalition forces will do is they will move their forces towards their objectives. Okay, and basically each turn they're going to keep coming after you. But remember, each turn represents 4 years of time. So even if the coalition forces get destroyed, there is, well, two things about that. Number one, they keep coming back. I know it might seem a little bit like zombie, zombie Age of Enlightenment warfare, but not really, because 4 years is a long time. But the other thing is that every time that they're defeated in battle, if the attacker is eliminated completely, that shifts the balance of power one in the defender's direction. So basically, for Russia, you've got a problem because if you keep winning those battles, it keeps pushing it closer and closer to the plus 10 mark. Okay, and if you reach the plus 10 mark, or the negative 10 mark for that matter, the game is over. You automatically lose. So that is a bit of a problem. So that's one reason you might want to try diplomacy and try to pull some of these countries, out of the fray, or try to get some allies to beat up on them so they'll all have to split their attention, to deal with things. So, alright, so let's get everybody moving here. So now we're going to move in order of precedence. So Sweden is first. So Sweden will send this fleet into the Baltic because that's one of their objectives. And of course now they're in the Eastern Baltic, and I lost my navy last time and I did not rebuild it. So that was a bit of a mistake on my part there. Okay, and then another objective is St. Petersburg, but in between is Finland, so they're going to cross into Finland. And movement points are pretty basic in this game. As you can see, it's an area movement game. So basically units have 2 movement points, and anything with like a difficult border, like a mountain or a forest or a marsh, is going to cost you both of your movement points to do that. Okay, so now we drop down here to the Khanate. Well, the Khanate will go ahead and launch into here to deal with that. And then of course we have Turkestan, and these folks will move 1, and then they can either go after Ufa or Astrakhan. Now of course I could just go, Ufa's listed first, so I could go there, and there's a lot of rebellion there, so maybe I will go there first. So there they go into there. Alright, so I definitely have my hands full. Okay, and now we have coalition combat, so we'll just start doing the combat there and work our way along. Again, it's an order of precedence, so we'll start with the Swedes first. So let's zoom in on Finland. And again, combat is pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing earth-shattering here. Again, this really is a game that's about the feel and also about the randomness with the chits and stuff of, just exactly who's in the war, who's arrayed against Russia at any given moment and stuff. That's part of the fun of this game, is doing that kind of thing. Okay? Now, the attacker, both sides have combat values on their units there. You can see the Swedes have a 5 and the Russians have a 6. Now that circle there with the yellow and black means an elite unit. Elite units have special capabilities. We'll get to that here in a second. So, fortresses, like this one here, give benefits to the defender. Whatever the number is, you see there is 2. It's a multiple towards the defender, so that would double it to 6. But since the Swedish unit attacking is an elite unit, every elite unit that's involved in the attack reduces fortresses down to 1. So basically the fortress won't be a multiplier in this case here. However, if you have a leader counter, like I have my Russian leader here, that does double it, so you basically have 5 to 12. And then it's a percentage combat table. For those of you who remember the old Frederick the Great game, this will be, old hat for you, so to speak. So we've got, again, 5 divided by 12. That comes down to 41%. So we're going to be using the last column there, which is the 49% column, because anything that's 49 less than that is resolved in that column. And conversely, if you get above 500%, it's resolved there too. All right. So they rolled a 6. Ooh, that's the first time I've had that one. Okay, so that's a bloodbath. All right. So side whose basic combat strength is lower is completely eliminated. Well, that's the Swedes. So the Swedes have been completely eliminated, but they'll be back. Okay. Now, the higher side has to eliminate equal to it. Well, I've only got 1 unit, so I have to get rid of that. And this is about to get worse. And my leader goes back into the pool. The only way you get leaders is by pulling them from the chit cup. Okay. The good news is with the bloodbath is don't shift the balance of power index. Okay. So again, typically I've been winning that battle up there, and as a result, the balance of power has been tipping heavier and heavier towards me, which of course is making me more of a threat, etc., to deal with there. Okay. All right. So that's our friends, the Swedes. Now, the fleet we don't have to worry about. Okay, the Khanate down here. Oh, I forgot. I think the Pugachev Rebellion has a precedence value of 0. Let's see. Let me just check this here real quick. All right. Alright. So, for rebels, so here we go. Here's the relevant rules to that, because I haven't come across this in the games at this point. So we have deployed them. Alright. So, they attack normally. Okay, and I'm pretty sure they are 0. So I should have actually started with the Cossacks and the rebels first. Precedence, actually it's a dash, so it's different. It's a precedence of 0. Yeah, so actually I should have started with them. Okay, so let's go back and we'll fix that here. But again, at least gives you an idea of how the combat works there, very quickly. So let's deal with some of these rebel areas here and the Cossacks here. So obviously going to be a lot going on with this turn, a lot more than I've had going on recently here. So this is a 2. This is 4 with a multiplier here. It's going to end up being 8, so that's going to end up being the last column, the 49% column. Oh, another 6. Oh, shoot. Well, that's no good. That eliminates both sides. I'm going to lose my field army. Ooh, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time mobilizing this turn, which is one of the actions you can choose to basically get things under control. Dang it. Alright, so down here we have the Cossacks. Now notice, I'll come down here and zoom in on the Khanate situation. Now notice here, when you have coalition forces from different groups, they don't unite. So the Cossacks and the Khanate will not unite here in this space. They will attack separately. So the Cossacks have a value of 2, but again, I have a leader, so that's going to be doubling both of those, which again is going to be the 49% column, which is a 4, which the attacker is eliminated. But with rebellion markers, it doesn't affect the balance of power, as I recall from the rules. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because of course balance of power really is more about other countries losing things, so to speak, not so much about internal problems, which this is definitely a Russian problem here. Alright, so these Cossacks here in Voronezh, that's actually going to be 100% assault. Sugar, that's no good. Oh boy. Alright. So let's see what happens here. This is one of the most even battles I've had so far. It's a 1. So, attacker eliminated. Ooh, that was a lucky break for me. I really thought I was going to lose Voronezh, at least temporarily, but that didn't actually happen. Okay, good. Alright, down here in Astrakhan, now we have rebels and we have Cossacks. We have both here. Alright, so there's a fortress. I've got 6. That's doubled. So that's again going to be on that column there. But it's a bloodbath. Shoot. So I'm going to have to lose my mobile unit along with the Cossack unit. Dang it. Alright. Whew. This has been a mess, hasn't it, though? Alright, then also we have down here these rebels. So that's going to be 1 to 4. That's again going to be the 49% column. It's another 4. Attacker eliminated, so that's good. Got rid of that rebel problem there. Excellent. Alright, then up here in Ufa we have Cossacks attacking. That's going to be 2 to 4, which that should be 50%. So we'll deal with that column there. And it is a 4. Let's see. So that's another bloodbath, sugar. So that's going to be a problem because those rebels are going to be there. And now the Kane is going to be able to take over Ufa without a fight, basically. Shoot. I am losing territory here. So that will affect the balance of power here later, which in a way is kind of good because it's going to drag it down away from me, which is going to be helpful in terms of like me surviving the game and not ending up at +10 anytime soon. Alright, now, so again, watch the precedence obviously is the big lesson from what just happened here. You got to make sure that you're going in order, and the revolt had a precedence of 0, so the rebellion should have been done first. Okay, so now here, Ufa is taken over, okay, by the Turks, so they're going to be happy about that, and they'll be able to control that. And of course, they also have a garrison, which next time in the reinforcement phase, they'll be able to place there unless I go back and take it. But that's going to be hard for me because I've really lost a lot of troops here. Okay, so let's go down here to the Kane. Clearly, from what you can see there, they're going to definitely end up in a situation of being on that 49% column again. Shoot, but they rolled a 6. Ugh. Alright, so unfortunately, well, fortunately, both good and bad news. Bad news is I lose another unit, and that's expensive. That takes money to raise those units. The good news is I don't have to worry about the balance of power. And I also get to keep my leader. So, some good news, some bad news. So, whew, that was a brutal turn. Okay, so now coalition force march. So a player can move coalition leader units stacked with coalition leaders. Well, we don't have any here. There's no Swedish leaders. There's no Khanate, and there's no Turkestan leaders to do that with. Otherwise, they can march again. So in other words, these guys could have went into here to go after their second objective at Astrakhan, but no need there. Okay, supply is pretty basic in this game. Basically, a region's supply value is equal to the fortress that's there. So for example, here in Muscovy, there's a fortress of 2, so you can have 2 units there without any kind of penalty. So you do want to be careful and watch how you're concentrating your forces, because otherwise you will lose some. You can also expend a leader to get a unit fully supplied, but leaders are extremely valuable when it comes to combat, so you want to be very careful about doing that. The coalition has no problem right now because all their forces are A-OK at the moment. Okay, so that's the end of their turn. Alright, now I'm up. My turn, okay? Now, first thing I'm going to do is collect my money. Money, 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 money. Alright. Now, some spaces that here for Nej have a dollar symbol on them. So that gives you 1 treasury point. Now, there is a policy in the game where you can go ahead and increase the treasury value of a space, like I did here with Muscovy. I took it from 1 to 2. So, right now, after losing the 1 space there, I actually now have 10 treasury points. I had 2 saved from before, so now it's up to 12. Okay. Now, as the Russian player, you have your own set of cards over here on the right-hand side of the table. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in on the one I already was using before when Sweden decided to get sporty. I retaliated by unleashing the Great Northern War. Okay. Now each one has an activation cost. As you can see there, it's 6. That's a lot on your treasury to do. It tells you how many reinforcements you automatically get, which is 2 each turn, and then your objectives. Okay. And of course special. If I start this without, the Swedes, starting something first, then it's going to bring Sweden in on the coalition side. But since they already were on the coalition side, no worries there. Now, if you notice, too, there's the fulfilled marker because I had fulfilled that. I had conquered Finland, but now Finland, of course, is up in the air. Unless I get some troops back there in a hurry, I'm going to have issues. Okay, so now, obviously, my biggest problem right now is I lost a lot of troops with these rebellions. And now I've got to try to defend myself too, and if possible, recapture spaces. So down here, I have a mobilize option. I can do it 3 times per turn, cost 1, and I get 2 reinforcements of whatever kind. Now I also have that Swedish fleet right knocking on the door of St. Petersburg, so I also got to be aware of that problem as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 of my treasury points, so 12 minus 3 is 9, and I'm going to go ahead and do mobilization, which will give me 6 units. Now units can be placed basically in any space. Elite units have restrictions, and everything's up here in the unit capability chart, where you can place people and things of that nature. Or I should say the reinforcement chart, not the capabilities chart. So some of them do have special rules. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to get troops into Finland, because I do want to garrison Finland and hang on to it, so that way I don't have to pay the cost of reigniting that policy again. And then I also want to get down here into Ufa and deal with that. So I get 6 units all together. So let me go ahead and do it. Or I should say 6 reinforcement points, not units, because fleets cost a little bit more for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus mostly on field armies. So I'm going to buy 1, 2, 3, and then let's see, so 3, that would leave me with 3 points left. I probably should be concerned about that Swedish fleet, but I'm going to ignore it for the time being. Alright, let's see, 4, 5, and probably get 1 mobile column here, because I'm pretty sure they're also 1. Okay, good. Alright, so I've got 5 field armies and 1 mobile column. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 of them. I want to put 1 in Astrakhan to defend Astrakhan. I'm going to put 2 of them up here in Siberia to prepare to strike at Ufa. I'm going to put 1 in St. Petersburg. Actually, I'm going to put 2 in St. Petersburg to defend. 1 to defend St. Petersburg, 1 to march into Finland and hold on to Finland. And speaking of defending, I got to put 1 back in Muscovy, which was crushed by the rebellion there, unfortunately. I won't have, well, I do have the money to invade the Khanate and conquer them, but I really don't think I'm going to do that this turn. But since they'll be coming back, and I don't want to lose that leader, I'm going to go ahead and put that mobile column down there in Zaporizhzhia. I'm not sure how that's pronounced in the Russian, I'll be honest about it. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so that was basically 3 of my points. Now I have 9 points left. So I could go ahead and do some different things. I could do some diplomacy, try to get, some markers pulled. I could do a different policy, but right now I think I really need to stay on the defensive. And of course I can just save my money too. I don't have to spend it at all. I'm pretty sure I have to spend out of it every single turn. I'm pretty sure I can bank it. I'm pretty sure about that. Let me just make sure here. Let's see. Right here. Yeah. I don't see anything where it says I'll use them or lose them system. Okay, good. So I'll tell you what, for the fun of it, I'll do 1 diplomacy pull here, which costs me 3. So 9 minus 3 drags me down to 6, and let's see what I get out of the cup. Maybe something good. Tell me something good. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Let's see. What did I draw? Brilliant withdrawal. Alright, that's a combat marker. So I will put that in the Russian combat marker box down here. As you can see, there's 1 for each side. There's 1 for the coalition and 1 for me. Oh, okay. Brilliant withdrawal. Okay. So I can basically retreat if there's overwhelming force arrayed against my units. Okay. Alright. So, time to move. So, I'm going to move these guys back into Finland. Boom. Alright. These guys, these two field, whoops, that's not a field army, that's a garrison. These two field armies are going to move into Ufa to deal with the rebellion there, and also to deal with the Khanate, who got all up in my face, so to speak. And I think that's going to do it for movement, because I didn't use one of these other policies, so I can't like invade the Crimea. I'm not allowed to do that. I can't invade Turkestan because I didn't do the policy. Basically, the policy is saying that you are paying for the war, because let's face it, war is expensive. Now, granted, in the rules, if a power like Sweden attacks you first, technically you don't have to do the policy. I still do it and pay for it, because even if somebody attacks you, you're still going to have to pay for the war. You're still going to have to pay to fight. Like, for example, when the Japanese attacked us at Pearl Harbor, well, you still had to pay to execute that campaign, even though the enemy attacked you first and achieve all your objectives, the island hopping and all that jazz. So, I always pay for them, which, does make the game a little harder, but, you don't want anything to be a cakewalk. So, some folks, speaking of which, I'll just kind of go into this right now very quickly. Some criticism about it is you can just sit still as the Russians, because, if you don't draw any powers out of the cup when the coalition markers are pulled, well, then nobody's coming after you, which is true. Which, again, that's part of the experience of this game is the chip pull. What is going to get pulled out of there? However, one solution I've done with this is basically made another set of markers that's just all the countries that are involved, all the powers that can be mobilized. And there's like about a dozen of them, I think, altogether. 13 altogether. And, if, say, there's 4 coalition markers that need to be drawn for the turn, I automatically draw one out of the quote-unquote power cup to, have something going on with the other countries. Now, of course, there is a chance that means that somebody could drop out or switch sides, but, again, especially with a solo game, you can always make adjustments in house rules that you want to make things more difficult or fix any problems that you perceive. So that's just a couple of thoughts with that. Okay, so let's get moving here. Alright, so basically my big fight is up here in Ufa. So that's going to make the first battle, because the rebels have, the area is controlled, it's controlled by more than one power, but they will get the fortress benefit. So that's going to make it basically 100% assault against the rebels. So let's start with the rebels first. So at 100% I rolled a 3. That's a bloodbath. Okay. So that basically means the rebellion is crushed, but I also lost one of my field armies before I deal with the Khanate there. So the Pugachev Rebellion is completely removed from the game now. So, because I basically have destroyed all the Cossacks and destroyed all the rebels. Now, I don't have to attack. I could just stay here. You can coexist in a space and dispute it, but just for the purposes of the game, I'll go ahead and, let's see, 4 to 6. So that will end up being, I'm pretty sure that's the 50 to 99% column. But let me just double check, because again, math was never my strong subject. I'm not going to lie about that. There's no point. Yeah, 66%. Okay, so let's see what we get. It's a 2. Alright, unfortunately, attacker eliminated, so I got wiped out. But the balance of power shifts 1 towards the defender. So in a way that's okay, because it takes it down to +5. Again, you don't want to get too far up the scale, but you don't want to get too far down either. So right now, sliding it down a little bit is okay, even though, of course, if this were the last game turn, not having control of Ufa would cost me victory points in the end. So, I've done my combat. Now, of course, I just need to check. I could force march. I can move some units around with leaders. I only have 1 leader way down there on the south near the Crimea, so we're just going to leave that be for the time being. And supply, again, fortress values. I basically have all my forces spread out enough that I really don't have to worry about that. So everybody is in supply there. And the administrative phase, I'm going to adjust the balance of power again by the value here and UFA, which is a value of 1, which now will drag it down to +4 because they control it. And now we're on to the next to last turn, game turn 6, which covers 1787 to 1791. Okay, so as you can see, you know, this game's not overly complicated. It does move pretty quick, although obviously the Rebellion kind of really slowed things down. I was kind of hoping to do 2 turns here, but, you know, it's part of the double-edged sword nature of doing things raw. Sometimes the unexpected pops up, and in this particular case, very unexpected popped up, and it took a lot of time to do the rebellions. But showed you how the combat system works. You know, got involved with the fortresses, activated a power. So it basically, you know, hopefully this video gives you a good feel of the entire game. I have no idea how easy or hard it is to get this game. I will say that I play this game basically once in a blue moon. The last time I played this game, I believe, was in 2010. So it's been 8 years, June of that year, I think. That's one nice thing about recording your plays on Board Game Geek, because you can always go back and look and see when's the last time you played a particular game. That being said, even though this is a once in a blue moon kind of game, I am glad I have it in my collection, because when I do get into this time period, like I've been doing a lot with Napoleon lately, and, you know, anything running from, you know, basically Frederick, well, possibly even to the early 1700s with no peace without Spain. But when I get into that whole time period, then, you know, this is here as an option, which I like. Again, it is a fun game. A lot of it is dependent on the chip pool. So, but again, you can mitigate some of that by doing what I mentioned earlier with the powers. If you want to make it more complicated and make it a little more sporty, so to speak, to keep you on your toes, be active, so you just can't sit back and, you know, guard the borders of the empire and increase your colonization, increase your money, which gives you increased victory points, and hey, yay, I won. Yeah, well, not doing it that way. Not when you're basically guaranteed that, somebody in that 4-year time period is, you know, basically going to put on their big boy pants and come after you, so to speak. So fun little game. If you like this time period, I think it is worth having. It's not as complicated as, say, Frederick the Great. It's not as complicated as Frederick the Great, or like Frederick the Great: A Dangerous Time, which I also have and am thinking about highlighting in a video sometime in the near future as well, because that's a great game. It's a Japanese game that supposedly is going to be published by Multiman Publishing. I got a copy of the Japanese magazine copy with an English translation of the rules, so I was fortunate to do that, because it's a great game. Like I said, I'll probably highlight it for you guys at some point. But to go back to my point here, is this game is less complicated than either one of those games, but it's better, in my opinion, than, say, Soldier Kings by Avalanche Press. But then again, I've gotten to the point where, well, you know, it's like the old saying, you know, fool me once, you know, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And Avalanche Press definitely falls into that category. I think I own 1 or 2 of their games, and I have not bought one of their games in God knows how long. So I know some people love them, and that's fine. I'm just telling you my personal perspective on it. So, bottom line again, Catherine the Great, S&T number 232. Yes, 232. Definitely worth getting if you like this time period, because again, this is just something that's not usually covered. You know, you don't see the wars of, you know, the Age of Enlightenment outside of, like, you know, Frederick the Great, the War of the Austrian Succession, which, by the way, there's a game coming out from Compass Games using a similar system to No Peace Without Spain, which I pre-ordered, naturally enough, because I've always been fascinated by the Frederick the Great and anything connected with him, including the War of the Austrian Succession, which for him was the First and Second Silesian War, was his participation in that particular general conflict. So I'll be looking forward to that. So again, pick this up if you like this time period. It is worth it. But again, it's not a game that you're going to play over and over again. Maybe not even very often. But when you do pull it out and play it, it is a lot of fun. So, this is Tim Korchner from Bare Bones Wargaming saying thanks for watching. And I will see you all again next time. Like I said, I'm looking at No Peace Without Spain. I'm looking at Frederick, I can't remember if it's a Most Dangerous Time or A Dangerous Time. It's one of those two. And of course I also have the expansion kit, as you saw from the previous unboxing video, with a Napoleonic 20, so at some point I'll probably get around to that, unless I kind of burn myself out on this topic before I get that far. So, we'll see, but you can probably expect in the near future mostly, you know, the games covering warfare from the 18th and 19th century is going to be the big focus for the foreseeable future. So, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.